On this episode, we're going beyond the status quo, exploring the factors that influence our beliefs.
We're happy to see you. Welcome back to Sharing Maps.
We are coming together to on the path to meet, to recognize one another, and to share maps, and to realize that the maps are part of it, but behind the maps, here we are.
Okay, Ram Dass bringing us in again.
What's going on, Will?
Not much, man. Just, hanging out in the garage, drinking coffee.
Beautiful.
It is, man.
Yep. It's good to see you then.
You too, buddy.
Man, so tonight we are, like I said in the intro, we're talking about why we believe what we believe. And man, honestly, I think the only way to really kind of start that off is, the idea that geographically, like, I think that matters.
Absolutely.
In that. You know what I mean? Like, cause, fuck. There's a lot of space on this planet.
Yeah. I don't have, I come from a pretty secular background personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, when you zoom out, and from my perspective, from someone who doesn't have a lot of baggage that's associated with the religious upbringing, I don't see how it's not obvious. You know what I'm saying? Just stereotyping here, I guess, maybe lack of a better term, but, if you grow up in the South of the United States, you're, most likely going to be a Baptist. If you grow up in Indonesia, possibly going to be Buddhist, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
If you grow up in Iran, you're probably going to be a Muslim.
And in doing research for this episode, I looked at, fucking probably 9 million different maps and read different articles. There you go. Sure enough. Cliche, motherfucker. That's good. The idea that, there's so many religions, and, there's no way to really count. And, a lot of the statistics and everything else are pretty general out there.
Right.
It's really hard. There's so many indigenous groups and, all these other things to kind of really pin it down. And so there's a few of the major religions that we all kind of know: Buddhism, Roman Catholics, evangelicals, the amount of Christians are legion. There's so many different, denominations and everything else,
right,
and different beliefs in that. But across the world, it's a little bit of everything. And if you were to grow up in South America, per se,
right,
the odds of you being Roman Catholic are pretty high. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then, you go over to, India. Good chance you're probably going to be at least affected by Hinduism. You know what I mean? And it's kind of that way a little bit of everywhere. Like you said in the beginning, the idea of growing up in America, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be some form of evangelicalism. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that stem? Obviously it probably stems back to earlier, the inability to really travel across the world.
100%.
So people were around who they were around, and that's just how it was.
Yeah.
Why do you think nowadays it's not more integrated than it is? I think it is to a big, to a certain extent.
I think the idea that we're having this conversation, and that we felt like that this would be a good way to kind of start, flagship our show, I think is saying a lot, because I think we're starting to see in this day and time a huge shift in that. And obviously the internet has a lot to do with that. A lot. And then the idea of even social, narrowing it down, not just the internet itself, but getting into socials and some of that stuff and things like this, a podcast, you know what I mean? And just, if I wanted to hear a teaching on a monk from the other side of the world, it's a click away.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So I think it's really, I think that's why we're these conversations are starting to be had more and more and more in this time in 2023. God, I can't believe it's 2023. So I think that might be the first time I've said it like that in conversation. God, but yeah. So you know what I mean? So I think that's a big factor in that. But I think the direction that we're probably going to go with this topic is probably going to be more here in the United States. Just that's where we're from. That's where we live.
That's what we know.
That's what we know. No, quote unquote. But yeah, so I think that's kind of where that kind of is going to start for us, man. So in the United States, it's one of the articles I read, and I've read a few and kind of looked through a few, but I'll just go based off of this.
We're going to link a lot of this stuff too.
We'll be able to put our sources and stuff and as we go. But yeah, so it looks like about 75% of the population, which is 300 million, a little bit over 300 million that practice some form of faith. It looks like, according to this article, Christianity makes up the majority of that. And like I said, that is legion. They are so many different branches of what we're calling Christianity. But for the sake of time, and this article just talks about it kind of lumps all the Christians into one, and that's 230 million of the U.S. population consider themselves some form of Christian. Judaism comes in behind that with 7.3 million. Buddhism just under that at a little bit over 4 million. Islam below that at about 3.5 million. And Hinduism wrapping that up with 2.5 million. And I think there's a lot of that doesn't, those are your major religions. That does not include, anything else. That
paganism.
Paganism. It doesn't talk about that. It doesn't talk about indigenous practice. It doesn't talk about any of that stuff. Right. So this is very basic, just throwing that out there. But yeah, I think that's where it kind of stands in the United States. That's what we're looking at.
So Dave, let's give everybody kind of a background of where we're coming from.
Okay.
Like we've said, we're not experts on this. We're speaking from our own personal experience, and we would love to hear your experiences as well. So.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I'll just tell my story, and it kind of falls into this very much so. So I was raised in California. I was born and raised in California for the first 10 years of my life. And in that 10 years, I never stepped foot in a church.
Right. Not
one time. Maybe for a funeral or a wedding when I was a kid. But other than that, my parents, I guess, the best, and this is not me speaking for them, but I would say that they were more, what's the word? It's agnostic, I guess, probably. Like
right.
I would say that they believed in something. Me and my mom would have conversations when I was a kid about God, and I remember asking about, asking questions about God, and that was it.
Yeah.
And when I was 10, we moved to the South, right in the middle.
Alabama.
Well, it was actually just at the border in Savannah, Tennessee. So kind of very small town in Tennessee. And as a 10-year-old, man, it was a lot. It was a little bit of culture shock. Growing up in California, I had long hair, an earring, and
I wish you still had the earring.
Yeah, my ear's still pierced, but I don't wear any. I'm 40. It's kind of weird, I think.
You need some hoops. Hoops, man.
Go full gypsy.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I could probably pull that off. But yeah, so we, it only took probably a year and a half before the first time I ever stepped foot in a church, as in going to church.
Yeah, welcome to the buckle of the Bible Belt. My
friend. Exactly, right? Like, so here this kid that, had never experienced that. I was thrown directly into it. And it wasn't even my parents at first. It was a friend, so so I was playing on a baseball team, and I had only been here for probably, I don't know, maybe right about a year, and I went to a sleepover, like, most 12-year-olds do, or 11 or 12, and went to a sleepover, and one of the stipulations, it was on a Saturday night, one of the stipulations is that if we were all going to spend the night, we all had to go to church the next morning.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And like, as I lived in the South and grew up in the South, I realized that was a very common thing though.
Oh yeah, dude.
I had never experienced those things in my life at all. And it was a thing for sure. And it wasn't that I hated that. Like, it was just different.
Right.
I didn't know what to expect of that, which led into within about 4 years of that, my parents started going to church. And at
Somebody
that time,
got them too.
Yeah, 100%. So I was in middle school, and then it was for my mom and dad, man, they dove in like completely. And there were circumstances around that. And I look back and like, I see why they went, and I don't judge that at all. Like, I get what they were yearning for. They were hurting at a point in time. You know what I mean? So it made sense to them.
Why do you think people go, like, I know we're going off the reservation.
No, yeah.
But, like, I know, I've seen it a lot, and I've been through it myself. We'll talk about that later. But when you start with any kind of religion, you go, like, hard. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, like, it's all,
yeah. Dude, all or nothing type thing.
And you're like, okay, what bumper stickers do I need? You know what I mean? Like, I got to put the right clothes on, man. I got to start listening to Casting Crowns. Like, like, this is all personal stories.
That's great. No, yeah, you're exactly right.
Why is that? Like, why do people go so damn hard? Like, why can't you just be like, you know what? I'll check this out, man. Like,
yeah, it's that's really a hard. That's a very, very deep question. It really is when it comes down to it. Fuck, like, we could talk about this for days. But yeah, we have a yearning as humans for connection. And we do have, I mean, this could go into like herd mentality and all those other things, right? Like people finding your tribe and people that think like you. There's a lot of that goes on and within that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is a genuine yearning for community. And like, that's something, man, that I've thought about in a lot of ways and has been hard over the years. But like, so back to it, like the idea. So we were there. I was kind of forced. Mom and dad, they were head over heels for it and they were going. And it started off like, why don't you come with us? And I went with them once. And then within about a week, it was like, I didn't have a choice.
Right.
Like that happened pretty quick.
Because why would you?
Yeah. Yeah. He's just a child. Yeah. He doesn't have a mind of his own. Like but yeah, so like the idea that I was kind of forced into it, right? So it became like when the doors were open, we were there type thing. And it was hard. That was eye-opening. Like that was something that was, looking back now, I went and it was a thing and it was okay. And like there were other kids there and it was, you know what I mean? Like you make friends and all those things. You do what kids do. And, but yeah, but the thing is like, I didn't leave. I was there. Like I was there and it became slowly but surely through repetition, it became a part of my life for sure.
Yeah.
Like especially as somebody coming in at that 11, 12-year-old age and kind of being pushed in the beginning. And then probably eventually, there were probably times I didn't want to do it, but there was times that, I enjoyed some of that. Does that make sense?
At that age, man, you're not, and that's one thing that's really bothered me a lot with the Southern Baptist kind of, the stuff that I grew up around. We'll get to, but like kids that age, I don't think are capable of really grasping the spiritual aspect of things. At that, when you're 10, when you're 11 years old, man, you're going there to hang out with your friends. Like these people are cool. These are my people. Like we hang out, we do fun stuff. You know what I mean? And I think it's definitely more the community at that age than the actual
100%
like, God.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it was. It became, it really did become a part of my life. And I went through my phases, I think just like any kid, as I came into adolescence as we moved different places, it became something different for me each time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So because we had moved 2 or 3 times within that time frame of us starting. You know, I became pretty good friends with some kids at that church. And then we ended up moving to where we are now. Right. And it was like I was like 15, I think, when we moved here. It was my freshman year of high school. That's when we met. Right. And I don't know. So church was definitely different at that stage of life. Like, I definitely was the kid that was playing both sides. Right. For sure. And you probably know that better than most people, that I was playing both sides. Because I had my quote unquote church friends, and then I had my unchurched friends. You know what I mean? I think that's pretty common, man. I think 100%. Compartmentalize. Like, I mean, you kind of have to, especially when you're a kid. Like, everything's so fucking awkward at 15 anyway. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So like and even in that, so at 15, I met you, and also at 15, I met at church my now wife. So we... Of like 20 years. Almost 19. Man. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. Dude. So I met my wife at 15 in church, nonetheless. And, you know, we'll get to that eventually at some point within episodes. And hopefully you guys will meet Kim. Well, I know you will at some point here on the show. But, you know, so now what do I do with it? Like, I've met my wife and everything else. Long story short, we stayed in church, and actually I participated in a good part of church. Me and Kimberly did missions and a few other things. And we were, you know, all in. Going in and save those heathen Irish. Oh, my God. We'll discuss later. I apologize in advance. No. But yeah, we were, you know, full on, sort of. I think, in hindsight, looking back at some of that, we were, you know, even though, and I'm not going to share any of Kim's story. I'll let her do that eventually. But, yeah, man, we were full on until around 2015. Like, that's kind of my story. The idea that, you know, I spent the first 10 years of my life never stepping foot in a church and never hearing anything about it. And within 2 years of moving to the South, we were full blown in church. Right. You know. Yeah. So that's my story. So, like, what about you? Like, your story is completely different than mine, which is fucking awesome. But yeah, so give it to us. Man, I don't know, man. We just didn't, growing up, you know, I didn't move around like you did. Like, we're like, I'm the 7th generation in this immediate area. Like, we traced it all the way back to, you know. And, man, we just didn't really talk about church. Like, I mean, I knew people that went to church. I went to church with friends because, like you said, that was the thing. Like, they're going to get you. You know what I mean? Like, you go to a sleepover, by God, you're going to church the next day. Like, yeah. But it just wasn't a thing in my house. Like, I didn't, especially when I was young, we didn't really talk about it. When I got older, I knew my grandmother was a German immigrant, and she was pretty Orthodox Roman Catholic. So my mom grew up Catholic. You know, by the time I got old enough, started asking questions, like teenage years and stuff, Mom called herself a recovering Catholic. And I think the break from the church was not that great, like with my grandmother or, you know, my mom. Because my, you know, a lot of family drama that wasn't able to be helped, but the church still frowned on regardless. Yeah, you know, yeah, totally. Yeah. So what about your dad? My dad's side of the family is total foot washing Southern Baptist. Okay. Like, okay. Yeah. Just, you know, a couple steps above throwing rattlesnakes around. I remember when I turned 16, because I had gone to church when my grandmother was in town a little bit here and there. We'd go to mass. You know? Yeah, definitely. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Yeah. It's beautiful. Like, I still think it's beautiful. Like, the ceremony, the whole thing in the Catholic Church is awesome. Terrifying, but pretty. But yeah, I remember when I turned 16, Grandma was getting old. She wasn't driving as much. Everybody was like, "Oh, you're driving. You're taking Granny to church." And that's a very Southern thing too. Like that part, like from the outside in, like that is very much a thing.
Man, we went to this church, dude, and I was terrified. Like it was total hellfire and brimstone, like turn or burn. Like I was just like, I remember thinking like, how the fuck do people like enjoy this? Like, why are they like, like, cause when.
What age are you at this
16.
point? 16.
Like,
okay. So
driving.
a little bit older than that 12. Yeah. I'm just trying to understand like the, maybe the mindset or because for me at that age, that's when I started pulling out a little bit more, you know what I mean? Not believing every single thing I heard. And does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to correlate the ages.
I didn't have the background. So, I mean, honestly, when I got told I was taking grandma to church, like I was kind of excited. I was like, cool. Like,
yeah, totally. Yeah.
I don't know anything about God. Like this will be all right, man.
I like
check it out. Like, and yeah, I got there, a couple sermons in, I was like, what the fuck? Like, no, like, I mean, I walk in, this dude's screaming at you and everybody's all sweaty and, hugging you and stuff. I'm like, this is fucked up. Like, no thanks.
Definitely.
And so, man, I didn't go for a long time. Like, I didn't, I took grandma, as long as I could or whatever till, she passed away when I was like 18. And, man, I didn't really think anything else about religion. I was always kind of curious, more so of, like, the occult kind of stuff, because I was kind of a borderline goth kid. You know what I mean? Like, I was a fan of that shit. But man, when I hit, I don't know, man, what was I like? In my mid-20s, like we started going back to church, like my first wife and I. And I was trying to be all in, dude. I was all over it.
Most definitely.
What I mean? Like,
so what do you think prompted that in you?
I mean, I think it's always been there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think
totally.
some of us just have like, I don't know, like a desire to find out why we're here. You know what I mean? Like why, what is it? Like, what is this thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that specifically was why I started pulling away from the church, is because I needed that.
Right.
And I didn't have it. You know what I mean? It was this.
No, in the processed religion, there's very little of that. I think like there's very little meat on the bone. It's all kind of the show, I think, is a lot of what I found. And even when I was in and I was trying to be a part of the church community, like I enjoyed the community. I enjoyed a lot of it, but I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I knew like in my heart that and it wasn't a negative thing. I wasn't like, I hate God, or I wasn't angry or anything. I just like, I didn't feel the connection.
It wasn't that thing. It wasn't that one.
Like everybody's in there, all raising their hands and flopping back and forth. I'm like, man, I do not feel that. Like, I mean, the band's okay, but so that's, and then fast forward to now, and it's weird, you were always a part of that. Like, you were a part of that, like, when I went to church, and now that, I'm kind of interested in the spiritual aspect of life again. Like, here you are. A little bit of my background, I guess, and we'll talk about it hopefully a lot on here, is, I have PTSD, and I, within the past couple of years, got treatment, and like it really opened up a whole, like all this stuff came back, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of the years where I was shut down was PTSD related. Definitely. And now that I'm kind of coming over the hump on that, like I'm all over it again.
Yeah, it's I have always, like you said earlier, I've always had that fucking draw to not even to understand. Like, I think that's the best terminology for it, for lack of a better word. This draw to find out, like you said, why and just what else is out there. I just didn't feel satisfied in a sense. It was just, there was something missing, and I couldn't figure out why. I couldn't. And I like you said, I knew it wasn't that one thing for me. Mm-hmm. Not that it's not that one thing for some people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's I'm okay with that, but it just wasn't that one thing for me.
I'm a firm believer that it's about it's about feeling. Like, it's about feeling. You know what I mean? Like, it's totally about feeling. Like, you can believe something and not be able to explain it other than I believe this. And I got hung up a lot on, empirical proof and wanting to be able to prove that this is the truth. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And I kept having questions and I kept running into walls because you can't prove it because it's based off of faith.
Yeah.
Which is a feeling. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I'm okay with that. But I knew upon realizing that Christianity was not my faith. Like I was not, I was not.
It wasn't not that feeling.
Right. It was not.
100%.
And, I think we've covered a lot of the cultural aspect of it. It's funny how religion permeates culture. And in every way, man. Like you look in what we talked about, the different regions, how much of what these people do every day is based upon religion.
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of funny, and I'll go back a little bit. But when I was looking at different maps of the United States, I found something like in the South, what some people would consider the Bible Belt. This one specific map listed the South, the Bible Belt as, the Protestants, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because the rest of the United States is labeled as some form of Christianity or Christians. Yeah, it's some form of Christians in the rest of the United States. But the Bible Belt was kind of separated in this map, not in all the maps. Usually they're just lumped in, but this one specifically said the Protestants, and I don't know what that means, but I just thought it was interesting. Well, just bringing that up, like it just
if you look around, I feel like in the South anyway, you're going to see Baptist churches, totally. You're going to see Methodist churches and Lutheran churches, and that's and a sprinkle of Presbyterian here and there,
a little dash,
but you got to really look for a Catholic church, or at least
very
around
much,
here.
100%.
You got to Google that shit and see where
That's exactly
you're not
right.
just going to drive by and be like, oh, there's the Catholic church,
and
there's one.
It's true, and the further north you travel, there are more Catholic churches for sure. Like in Ohio, I know there's more. And I just speaking from experience driving through and stuff like that, I've never lived up there or anything. And then, I did spend some time in Colorado, and it's completely different there.
Right.
It's there's definitely that evangelical, feel to a lot of the churches there. But as far as like the Southern Baptist Convention and stuff like that, it is completely different in Colorado than it is here. And I'm assuming it's different everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to speak to that too much because I don't know. But yeah, I would say that it definitely varies.
So you think are people drawn to that specific thing just for the community? Like do people actually believe everything that they hear, or how much of it is, I believe like this because my daddy believed like this, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like
cultural.
You associate, what's right with what your parents did or what you're accustomed to.
I think there are some people within these structures that do believe 100% what they're taking in.
I'm kind of envious of that, honestly,
bro. Right?
To be like that sure, you know what I mean? Like I don't know that I've ever been that sure about anything ever.
No,
like in my life,
I have performed and made a really good go at it though.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. Like seriously, I faked it a few times. Yeah. You know what I mean? I really did.
Absolutely, man. But the freedom of being that sure, dude, and being able to move within a structure like that must be pretty fucking awesome.
Freeing, maybe. Like for
yeah, Dave, freeing. The freedom must be really free.
Shut up.
That's the thing.
No, but yeah, I know what you mean. That like I can't comprehend that. I really can't. And I would venture to say that there are very few and far between people that actually meet that standard, or not standard, but that mold or whatever.
Right.
Like I really don't and that's not me trying to speak for everybody, but I am human and I know the way
Well, dude,
that.
I feel like that's kind of why we're here. Like, fucking here. Like, talking about this right now is because we're after that. Like, I'm after that personally.
No. Yeah. I mean,
what I mean?
I think that's the whole reason why we're having these conversations. But yeah, I think cultural Christianity, what's the word? I don't know. It's
the way culture permeates religion.
Yeah, exactly. The idea that we are definitely influenced by the people around us. You know, like even the idea that I was 12 and when we started going to church and when I was kind of forced to go to church, like I was still influenced by, whether it was by force or not, I was influenced by that. Like but at a younger age, so kids that are kind of born into this, like, and I speak on that because my wife was born into this. You know what I mean? She was, raised in a Christian home, and she went to private Christian school. You know what I mean? From kindergarten through 12. Like that was her life. And I mean, and church on the weekends and summer camps and the whole 9 yards.
I got an interesting question.
I've got an answer.
I know we're going, later on, future episodes, we're going to dive into the negative impacts that upbringing had on you guys.
Yeah.
Give me one thing, one positive thing that you took away, 40-year-old Dave.
Yeah.
That 40-year-old Dave still experiences today that stemmed from your religious upbringing.
Okay. The first thing that kind of comes to mind is it taught me to love people. It did. Like,
and I mean,
it wasn't necessarily practiced well. It wasn't executed well.
Right.
Always by me or anybody else. Like that's, I think because we're human again, but it caused me to look outside of myself in some sense, to look outside of myself and see other people for who they are too. And it took me years to realize, on this side of it, that I needed to look within to see that also. You know what I mean? To be able to see that. But it definitely laid the path out for me to be able to see people for who they actually are, for sure.
Right.
And that, in hindsight, looking back at that, that was more the teachings of Jesus than it was the church. And I think it definitely caused me to be able to love people in a different way.
I think, I think we agree on the fact that people fuck everything up.
Yeah. 100%.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we can't just let things be good.
We can't have nothing nice.
No, we can't have nothing nice, man, especially spiritually. But, I feel like isn't that the fucking point, man, of all of them? Like just,
you dig into every one of them. Throughout the years, especially since 2015, I have gone many different paths and looked at many different modalities and, everything. And there are these things I call crossovers. And that's when, one teaching kind of lines up with another teaching and another teaching and another teaching and another teaching. And, spoiler. Yeah. Love is pretty much throughout the
almost
majority
like
of them.
It's the same fucking thing.
Exactly. But yeah. So I think it did, man. I come from a standpoint that, for me, everything is perfect. And that's fucking hard to say. It really is hard to say when looking back at how fucked up life has been for me and other people. And I don't speak for anybody else but myself. But for me, everything is perfect without any of those things happening throughout the years. Like I wouldn't be who I am now. I wouldn't be.
That is a tough, mindset.
Goddamn. Like I don't claim to understand that and to do very well in that, but everything is perfect. Like, fuck. That's hard. But yeah, for me, like at least what I do is I say that to myself and then I deal with it because there's a lot of dealing with it when I say that to myself.
To clarify, is everything, when you say everything is perfect, that does not necessarily mean that everything is good.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But everything is perfectly in line.
Yes.
And is creating the moment or sculpting the moment.
Yeah, those are, and that really is like, and as far as me kind of diving into that part of my life, like that's one that I kind of tread lightly on because there's some fucking hurt.
Right.
And there's some fucking evil out there.
Absolutely.
And there's some things that should not be. So I tread lightly when I say shit like that. And that's why I say that thought process is for me. I have developed a conversation within myself that I can kind of have that conversation with myself. But what it does is it constantly causes me to reflect and to dive in and see things for what they are. And, and that's all the bad shit, all the quote unquote bad shit and the good stuff too. And
see, I know
it's hard, but
I've read a lot in the spiritual stuff that I've been reading, and people say there is no good and bad. And personally, I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, 100%. I know what you mean. Yeah.
I feel like, there are, okay, it's a matter of perspective, or, I guess maybe I'm just not advanced enough, and I don't go. I'm not far enough down the rabbit hole to really see. But I mean, you know what? Something, it's a matter of perception. Yeah, well, I perceive that this situation fucking sucks. Yeah. Like there's, you know what I mean? Like, I fell down and broke my leg. My fucking femur's sticking out. Ow. You know what I mean? There's nothing about this situation that's good. Yeah. Like this is a bad fucking time.
That's exactly right.
You know what I mean? And I'm fucking poor. Like I'm broke and, they have to cut the fucking lights off. That's not a good situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, are there good things you can gain from any situation? Absolutely.
100%.
You can, you have to, I try to learn from every situation. And that's one thing that the spiritual experience has really helped me do. Like if I start to trail off or I start to get, I'm able to catch myself and actually sit with the emotion that I'm feeling or sit with the situation I'm in and try to sort it out. You know what I mean? But
in that, I believe in doing that mindfulness, that's exactly what I mean by everything is perfect. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not, we are going to view our emotions, our situations, all of that shit is very subjective. Mm-hmm. Very subjective. Yes. We understand that. You know what I mean? That not everybody is going to see these things any certain way. Life is fucking subjective. It is. Every bit of this whole experience is subjective.
So understanding that everything is subjective. Do religions even exist? Is it, what is it? What is the structure? Is it a thing?
No, I personally would say that religion, quote unquote, does not exist. I know that's
why.
Because it is subjective. Every fucking bit of it. It's, I haven't, but I can, and maybe I'll experiment with it one day. I could walk into a church today where I'm at now, kind of past some of the bullshit that religion has where it has traumatized me. I don't use that word lightly, but fuck it. There is such a thing as religious trauma. And that's something we'll talk about, throughout this journey. And that shit's real. But I'm in a place now, I know I could walk into a church and still have a fucking spiritual experience in that place because of where I'm at. Mm-hmm. I'm the one that's having the religious experience. It's not the church. It's not the people in the church. That shit helps. A lot of that show.
Right.
For me, I could have that religious experience in that church, but I could also have that religious experience doing dishes in my house. You know what I mean? It's very subjective, and that's why, personally, I think it is. They don't fucking exist. Well, what are your thoughts on it?
I think they don't exist in the fact that, I don't know. I don't know, man. Like you don't have to have religion to get to God. I think that is you know what I mean? I think that, I guess I'm taking like a universalist stance or whatever, but I feel like, I base a lot of my life off of, a lot of decisions I make in my life off the, Finding Nemo movies. Dude, there's so much fucking wisdom in Finding. Okay, so
give it to me. I love it.
All drains lead to the ocean, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there you go.
All drains lead to the ocean.
Yeah, ocean
like,
being God.
You're gonna fucking go, or being anything.
Like, whatever.
You're gonna fucking
exactly.
Go go. You know what I mean? Like whatever path you go down, you're gonna end up exactly where you need to be. All right. And the second thing I take from Finding Nemo is just keep swimming. Because, and I know that sounds so fucking stupid, dude, but I swear to God, like I will sing like Dory in my head all the time. Like, just keep swimming. Just keep, like when shit's bad.
Yeah.
That's really what's going on in my head.
That's fucking cool though.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So who, like in, like that voice inside of your head, who is that? That just keeps swimming.
Ellen DeGeneres?
That's fucking weird, bro.
Yeah, man. Ellen lives rent free.
All
the time.
No, that's fucking awesome. And that's really cool. And the idea, so for me, belief, the other day, me and Will had been talking about this episode and why we believe what we believe and going through all of these processes and doing the research and having the conversation. So the idea of, like, I started about halfway into the research, I started asking myself why I believe what I believe. You know what I mean? And it was like, for me, I had to, start to turn that Rolodex that is my thoughts and start scrolling back and trying to figure out. And for me, what I like to do is I like to break things down into very simple thought processes. And for me, there's so much going on in my brain constantly that it's easier for me to break them down into small things. And
bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, 100% bite-sized pieces. And something that came to me in that was, what is a belief? And for me, a belief is just the lending of a thought. And what I mean by that is that I am giving this thing, whatever it is, whether it's Christianity, Jesus, a fucking tree, whatever it is, a crystal, you know what I mean? Like with my cat, maybe even like I've got some goats too. Like we could do that, but whatever those things are, I am allowing it to take up space in my thoughts. I am renting a little piece of property inside of my brain. And that is a belief to me. That's what I like. It's a lending of a thought. And even that statement is fucking subjective. So belief to you, what is that? Like for you, what is belief? Like,
man, fuck, I don't know.
I mean, that's a fucking real question. And it's something, and there's probably no right answer to that either. Like a lot of the things when I do these, I like when I have something that makes me really, really think, I tend to make other people think, want to think about it too. At least people around me, like why do you believe what you believe? What is a thought? Like what is a belief? You know what I mean? Like, and I went through and I talked to some of my older kids and asking them, and then talking to Kimberly and you, and I actually I think I did make a video about that on TikTok. And a belief is just the lending of a thought for me.
So you're lending a thought to like a concrete idea.
Maybe more like Jell-O, like you know what I mean? Like I want always, and that's just me.
But who are you? Like, what are you lending the thought to?
I mean, fuck. So in this moment, like for me, I am lending the thought in this moment to myself, me being that source of everything in my life. It's me. I am lending a thought of emptiness, maybe. Fuck, I don't know I've never had to explain it that way, but it is almost like an empty thought. It's just me. I'm not lending to any. But okay, let me say this. This will kind of help. I do lend thoughts to parts of Hinduism.
Mm-hmm.
I do lend thoughts to some of the teachings of Christ. I lend a lot of my thoughts to the sun and the moon, which you can call that paganism or whatever. And happy new moon, by the way, tonight. Today. It's the idea that I am allowing some of these things to take up space in my brain. I am allowing that thought to be something that I believe in. Is the lending of that thought. And so I do have micro thoughts a little bit everywhere. You know what I mean? And in that, it allows me to be able to draw from where I want. But then also it allows me to not feel a certain way when one of those things does not serve me anymore.
Right.
I just get rid of the thought. I let it move on.
So I think like we've definitely established that, when it comes to religion or, whatever, you are the one giving that thing authority. And really, the concept of authority in general is total bullshit. You know what I mean? The concept of authority is directly related to your willingness to be subjugated, essentially. Like, I mean, 100%. And I'm not saying that I'm not one of these punk rock, fuck authority guys. I feel like it has its place.
100%. You know what I mean? 100%.
Because I think we've seen, if anything, in the past couple of years with this COVID shit, we are not prepared. We had, not a minor, but the global crisis that we had, we almost fucking hate ourselves, especially in this country. I can't imagine, if anything, what if the zombies happened? You know what I mean? We'd be fucked.
Exactly.
We would be fucked.
Yeah.
I would be fucked.
Yeah. I think, I heard somebody say in early 2020 that they thought, that what COVID was going to do is show us where we've been wrong in so many areas. And I think you can say that about any crisis. It does bring out the true colors of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, and you're right. That definitely that definitely happened.
Right.
For sure.
I don't know, man. So saying that you're responsible for giving authority to, especially a religion, I mean, no, it can't. The religions don't exist.
They don't.
The structure's there. And
I get that. That is there. They physically are there. Yes. But the authority that they have is only good if people are giving it to them.
Yeah.
The church does not exist, or organizations, and when I say that, I'm talking Buddhism, I'm talking Hinduism,
right?
All of them, every fucking one of them, and even into the pagan practices, we are the ones that are giving it its energy. For not to sound like that, but for real though,
the fact that
Matrix, we are the fucking batteries.
You were talking about, and it goes back. We just had this conversation. You said, "Happy New Moon," and to me, I don't know what the fuck that means.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. It's a fucking moon. It's there. Man, that's pretty. That's you know what I mean. That is the extent of the meaning that.
Yeah.
Thanks for gravity and thanks for the tides and all that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. But as far as a spiritual meaning, I don't really have that connection.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because you haven't lended that thought,
right?
And that's fucking okay.
Yeah.
Newsflash, that's okay. Yeah, the idea that especially in this country, and it's not I'm not fucking here to bash anybody or any of that. That's not my bag. But especially, like I said, this is what I know.
Right.
I live here.
Right.
That's what I know. So that's what I'm going to say, when I talk about things that's going to be fucking related to here. We have not allowed people to be their authentic selves for a very, very long time in this country. Like we haven't. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't think it's nefarious. I don't think it's any of those things. I think it's just something that has happened. That's the manifestation has become this. Whatever caused the manifestation, whatever caused that process to start, whether, I don't know what it is, but we are here and we are not playing very nice when it comes to just letting people be people. And I think that's kind of where we are. And in essence, like we've got to fucking stop. I don't know what to do with that, man. I would fucking save the world, Will, if I could, but I can't.
Yeah, I think you will.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess to put it simply, like, you know what? Be what you want to be. Like, do what you want to do. Like, if you want to fucking believe in, the new moon or the old moon or, Jesus Christos or whatever, like, do what the fuck. But you don't have to be a dick.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, quit being an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
I think that, to put it bluntly, is the premise of every religion. Or it should be.
Yeah, don't be an asshole.
Don't be a fucking dickhead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's good. It's, it's something that just has been continuous. And I think we are seeing, in this day and time, I think we are seeing a quote unquote shift. And some of the up and coming generations, like they have their issues, man, but the idea of them wanting, it's coming out that they want to be who they want to be. And it's coming out in some weird ways. And it has with every fucking generation. So like Gen Z, I'm not bashing because every generation has done that. Our generation did that. And Gen X did that. And the boomers did it. And everybody else, like it all comes out in this fucking weird way. And if we could just get our shit together a little bit, and maybe we don't, fucking it is all perfect, right? Like, so maybe we don't, but there is something different happening. And I think we wouldn't be having this conversation if something wasn't changing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think,
dude,
no, go. Yeah.
If you guys haven't, you should really read The Fourth Turning.
Oh my God.
Like it.
Yeah. The fourth turning is a layout of the cycles that we go through, in 100-year cycles and 80-year cycles and
like generational.
Generational cycles. It talks about the different generations. And one thing that book really did for me was the idea that it allowed me to have a little bit of grace for the boomers, and it allowed me to have a little bit of grace for Gen X. I'm an elder millennial. But like it allowed me to kind of reflect and look back at those guys and see that their upbringing was just as fucked up in different ways, but just as fucked up as any of the other generations, man.
Ain't nothing new.
No, man, there's nothing new under the sun. Like we hear that, and it's fucking, I think it's true, man.
Yeah. So the book's fucking.
Yeah, the fourth turning. I can't think of the author right off the top of my head, but the fourth turning, and maybe we'll tag that down in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll put that in there. But man, like this was a fucking great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And I think it's a good start to what we're looking to do with this. And honestly, like I'm glad that everybody's here and everybody's going to listen and watch or whatever, but I'm excited about just having these conversations for myself with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because what it does is the selfishness in it is that it's going to inevitably help me work through some things. Like that's what conversations do. And I think the conversations are a very powerful thing. And I think this is going to be fucking really fun.
I can't wait to hear from you guys, man. Like this is the reason I wanted to do this, is to actually communicate with people on the same journey. You know what I mean? On the same, because, necessarily in my family, like, I'm not on the same page with a lot of people. So, the beauty in the fact that we can mass communicate with, a fucking iPhone and some, microphones.
Yeah.
Is awesome.
Yeah,
it's. You know what I mean? And I'm so excited to hear from normal fucking people. Like normal, whatever the fuck, you know.
Whatever normal is.
Yeah.
Fuck that. That's exactly right. So I think being able to have these conversations in the long run is just going to be quote unquote therapeutic. I really do. And being able to see what other people are feeling and what other people are, you know, just their struggles in their life, man. So the premise of sharing maps is just us sharing our story for what it is, as raw as it is sometimes, and as fucking crazy and funny and hilarious as it is sometimes too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, cause there's some fucked up shit that's gone on over the years and continuing in our lives, and just being able to share a raw, authentic conversation is fucking dope.
And, you know, and like I said, we're going to throw some weird shit in there, like some palate cleansers that we're not going to, you know, we don't want to beat you over the fucking head with all the woo-woo all the time. Like, it's, you know, I'm perfectly okay talking about aliens on occasion as well.
Hell yeah.
So,
man, I wanted to kind of close out with a quote like that came across when I was doing this research and different things, man. So I'm going to read that, and then we're going to go from there. And hopefully, like, where this quote comes from will maybe kind of jar a few people, but maybe not. I think it's spot on for what we talked about today. It is necessary that we stop once and for all this ignorant meddling with other people's business. Each individual must be left free to follow his own path.
And who said that, Dave?
That was Aleister Crowley.
The world's most famous power bottom.
That's fucking great. But yeah.
Man who once had a wizard fight in the middle of the street. That, look, I kid. Like, no. But I think he had a fucking wizard fight.
He did have a wizard fight.
They were casting spells at each other.
Yeah. It's,
awesome.
Aleister Crowley is a topic,
that we hotly debate.
Yes, very much so. But I'm not on team Crowley either. Like, I'm not, but, I will take a teaching.
Absolutely.
I will take a teaching from anywhere.
Yes.
And that is
some wise shit.
That is some wise shit, bro.
It is, almost as wise as, Ellen DeGeneres.
Swimming. Keep swimming. All right, man.
Well,
it was great, bro.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one, man.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Peace.
Bye.
We are coming together to, on the path, to meet, to recognize one another, and to share maps, and to realize that the maps are part of it, but behind the maps, here we are.